Hey everyone, this is Mark Cousineau. I'm the Content Marketing Manager at Fix. Thanks for checking out this video. Today, we're going to be talking about telling your maintenance team's success stories. I'm joined by three other Fixers today. There's Scott Deckers, he's the Customer Success Manager at Fix. There's Jason Afaro, he's a Solution Engineer at Fix. And Stuart Ferguson, he's the Lead Solution Engineer at Fix. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting us, Mark.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So we're going to be talking about some best practices for telling your maintenance team success stories, like I talked about off the top here. That's how to tell the world, or at least the rest of your company, about all the good things your team has done. You know, we publish a lot of great stuff about how to make your maintenance team successful, but we don't often talk about how to communicate those wins. Jason, I wanted to start with you, and I know you spent some time as a maintenance manager, and I wanted to find out from you, why is this something that's important? Like, why is this something that should be on a maintenance team's radar, telling your success stories?
Yeah, it's important to celebrate the wins, whether the wins are small or large, because it allows you to build momentum within the maintenance team and move a culture. At least for me, in my experience, it allowed me to move the culture into a more collaborative group where people weren't so concerned about the information that they had as job security, and that they were more open to actually sharing information and working together and troubleshooting together. So celebrating those wins as a team, so celebrating kind of team wins, whether it's something small like buying donuts for everybody, grabbing lunch, or like something small like that is beneficial into moving the group in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Is there any time during your career in the industry where you and your team knew you were doing a really good job, but outside of your team, maybe people didn't know what you were doing and how well you were doing it, and where that was a crucial step in the right direction, communicating those wins?
Yeah, there are definitely some times where it's really just focused on, because maintenance is a service for operations, for production in my case. So there was really times where the operations team were very focused on what have you done for me lately, and lately as in 2 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago. So capturing those wins, whether it's PM completion in the previous month or number of work orders that are related to health and safety and audits that have been complete, and then sharing those numbers and sharing our accomplishments with other departments is a good way just to display what we're working on. Because it's very easy, and this was kind of a sentiment that I always shared with my team. It's very easy to point out what's not working. There's a lot more eyes there are a lot more eyes pointing out what's not working than there are hands actually fixing equipment. So let's focus on the wins. Let's move let's take small steps in the right direction. Let's move in the right direction, and then share that information with other departments in the facility.
Definitely. Now, Scott, you work with a lot of maintenance teams, maintenance managers, and you hear about their success stories and you help them get there. Are maintenance teams good at communicating their wins right now? And if not, what are the consequences of not doing that?
Yeah, so to build on what Jason said, I think sometimes maintenance teams are really good at celebrating their wins internally, like within the maintenance group. Sometimes what happens is that doesn't get the visibility outside of the maintenance teams that it should get. The maintenance managers and the maintenance technicians that I've worked with over the past few years are extremely humble, and they're full of pride and satisfaction about what they do and what they've done. But the cost of not sharing that success externally is like when it's budget season, when it's time to make cuts, when there are groups within the organization that don't know about all the great work that they're doing. There's always that risk of that maintenance budget being the first one to get cut. How can we reduce parts? How can we reduce labor? How can we do less, less, less? Where in my experience, the most successful maintenance teams, when they share all that success and all the good work and all the good results that they have achieved over the past, whether it's week, year, several years, it's actually, how can we do more? How can we get better? How can we be best in class? How can we lead the charge? So that's really the risk of not celebrating with your maintenance team, and celebrating that is, you know, the last thing a successful maintenance team wants to do is to have to go in and redefend their existing budget.
Mm-hmm, for sure. That's an interesting point about, maintenance teams, maintenance professionals being really humble, and that's sort of the reason. Are there any other reasons why, that might be keeping maintenance teams from, being very proud about their successes?
There's some kind of culture of, like, again, without the deep understanding, especially in executive boardrooms, about what goes on in a day-to-day maintenance environment, there's a culture that's emerged. But, like, if we keep our heads down, then people won't come here looking to make budget cuts. It's always like just X minus 10% when it's budget season. So that can happen. Like I said, that's, again, going back to where I see the real value of celebrating those big wins across the company is, you don't have to go defending or even begging for budget.
Right. Stuart, what kind of wins are we talking about here? So when we're talking about sharing these wins with the rest of the organization, what should maintenance teams be talking about with pride? Like, are these big things, small things, both? Or is it about the numbers only, or are there some other measures that maintenance professionals should be looking at for sharing?
Yeah, I mean, short answer is all the above. Celebrate the big and the small. But I think, there's some obvious ones out there, like PM compliance and audit compliance, and some of these things to shift more proactive with what you're celebrating versus reactive. The real goal, I think, of a maintenance team, trying to move forward and really move the needle on preventative maintenance and preventing breakdowns is really getting out of that cycle of celebrating that kind of the superhero complex idea, right? That's a big shift for a lot of maintenance teams, moving from being the guy that comes in and fixes the machine that's down, gets it back up and running, and production resumed, right? But that's not a state you want to be in. Not that you shouldn't celebrate the great work you're doing to come in and get something started, in an extenuating circumstance. But really what we want to do is make it clear that that's an extenuating circumstance, right? So there's a few different ways outside of the stats that, the leadership teams love to see, like PM compliance and audit compliance, things like that. Great for leaderships doesn't really connect with the people on the floor. One that I've used in the past to great success is actually clean startups. If there's anything operations loves the most, it's actually seeing how the maintenance team is helping them day to day. And celebrating clean startups was a big one for me. So coming out of a maintenance window, a planned maintenance window, that first hour of runtime, can we come up and start at the same quality or better than we were before we went down? That's huge. Because so often, things go wrong during maintenance windows. And you're not really sure how it's going to line out. If you can really have that attention to detail, the appropriate pre-planning, the right parts ready to go, you're going to have a clean, efficient maintenance window with all the right resources. You start up clean. That's really the end goal, right? You get your maintenance done, get those preventative tasks accomplished, and then coming out of that, right, you're right back to business as usual. No major downtime. So that was always one that connected really well for me with operations. And the other one is, if you want to get a little further outside the box, you really need to start celebrating the red. So celebrate those red numbers. Celebrate defects. Every defect you find, every inspection that you fail, is a potential failure that you've caught before it's actually, caused a catastrophic downtime in the equipment, right? So celebrate those reds. Celebrate those failed inspections. The point of doing inspections is to catch things. So if you're failing, 30% of your inspections, great. It means you're doing the right inspections and you're finding those defects before they're causing issues in the equipment. So I would say those are kind of two main ones. Align some things with operations that they really want to see. Clean startups is a good one. And really start celebrating those red numbers. Celebrate finding and fixing those defects.
That's really interesting. And I think all of you touched on that notion of culture, and how culture is such an important piece of this puzzle of telling your story. And I'd really like to know, what if there isn't none of that culture? What if you're starting from scratch in terms of making that connection between what you do in the maintenance team and operations or the executive level, C-suite, and there is no connection yet. There is none of that sharing of information and successes. What's one of the first steps you can take to change that culture? This is for any of you, anyone wants to.
So there's a couple of weird anecdotal quotes that I always go to in these situations, and they're really relevant. The first one is like, if you want to begin, begin. And the other one's very similar. It's like, if you want to be a leader, then lead. And it's important that if that doesn't exist, that you start doing that. Every interaction with somebody inside or outside your maintenance team is a chance to create a culture. It's also a chance to take a leadership position. Like, maintenance can build a leadership culture across the organization. So even if it's just a quick chat in the lunchroom, or if you got a chance to present to a board meeting, every single one of those interactions is a chance to, in a typical like maintenance humble fashion, highlight those data points that are key wins. If you know what matters to your business and you know what matters to your operation, and you can tie your maintenance operations to those, you should do that, and it will generate a self-reinforcing culture of leadership and victory.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That's interesting, because I want to get down into sort of the nitty gritty of sharing. Like, how do you go about talking to your boss and their boss about your successes? Jason, I think you have some experience in this area. What are some ways you have seen or you found successful in taking that step and actually sharing it? Is it a PowerPoint presentation? Is it a 5-minute meeting every day? Like, what should people be looking to actually implement at their facilities?
It does depend on your manager. I've had some managers who want to have a presentation deck ready with some ROI and showing some financial numbers beside it. I've had some managers who just want an email, or managers who'd prefer to meet in person and create a bit of a punch list of what's going on. I think what really is important is evidence. So kind of speaking and going back to like a CMMS, is having a report or having some evidence to show positive things that we were able to change on a piece of equipment for a specific department, or whether that's even working with the finance team to show how we've improved based on our standards. Are we now producing more based on these certain changes that we were able to make, and from these changes that we were able to make, whether they were upgrades on certain pieces of equipment or just actually getting the piece of equipment and the ability to do some preventative maintenance tasks, just showing the value based on the time that maintenance was given. Because that was one of my biggest challenges, and we would fight operations just for time to touch a piece of equipment.
Interesting. And I think you bring up a good point there, and it's in a perfect world. This is all talking about in a perfect world. So we're talking about a perfect world where executives are available and they care about what you have to say, and they care about maintenance and their wins. Stuart, I'd be interested to know your insight on this. We don't live in a perfect world. What if no one cares? Like, what if you bring up this information and you don't get the reaction you're hoping for from whoever you're talking to, whether that be the C-suite guys or right on down to your technicians, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, there's always a way to move towards that perfect world. So, if you're not getting the reaction you're expecting, you're probably not presenting the right information. I don't think anybody that's going to listen to this, this webinar is going to believe that maintenance is not important and maintenance is not a critical item for success in any kind of facility or industry. It just is. What you need to do is make sure you're aligning those metrics the right way. So I would say, if you're struggling to get that alignment from an executive or your plant manager or a foreman, right? Figure out what that person's tracking. What's he being tracked against? He or she. What are they going after? What's their day-to-day goal, right? And what's their yearly goal? Figure that one out. Often these are to do with, cost reductions or efficiency numbers. And then you really need to boil that down and actually show how maintenance is impacting that, right? If they're going for, say, an uptime type metric, show how maintenance can positively impact that through a few things that your maintenance technicians are doing every day, right? Show them an RE analysis, of infant mortality after startups and how hard that is on equipment if you don't start up clean out of a downtime. Show them what it means to actually move that needle preventative, right? And if you can show some of that data and show how those individual actions are going to contribute to their larger number, then you're going to get a better use case of getting them on your side. The big thing is you need that alignment, right? If that person who's, whether the plant manager or whoever, is aligned with your goals and is celebrating the same wins as you are and congratulating, the guys on the floor turning wrenches on, that clean startup out of line 3, we came up better than we were running before we went down, right? That's the kind of thing that really can kickstarts the whole program. But to get that alignment, you got to go to what they are looking at. What are their metrics? What are their KPIs? And how do your metrics and KPIs tie into theirs? And if they don't tie in, you have a systemic issue that you really need to take up the chain to begin with, right? Because at that point, your business isn't valuing kind of the maintenance or operations, to be honest. Maintenance, well done, always positively impacts operations.
And just to build on what Stuart said there, we actually, like, I work with my team a lot to take it another step further than that. So don't just think about what your boss is tracking, but think about what your boss's boss is tracking, right? If it's, if you can get to an overall company-wide objective, like a cost per order metric, like a cost per part or a cost of hour of operations, a lot of maintenance managers know their cost per downtime, but that cost per downtime has a direct impact on profitability. And when you can tie your maintenance operational metrics to something like a profitability or a cost per order, we call those like C-level goals or like level 3 goals. If you can tie your operation to those, everybody's going to listen because they have to, right? As soon as you're talking about company-wide numbers, easier if you're in like a publicly traded, like large company, because you could just look up the last quarterly or annual statement and tie yourself directly to one of those objectives. But if you know what your boss's boss or your boss's boss's boss is going to be most interested in, and you can tie your metrics to that, that's going to make sure you're aligned like all the way up the chain and people can't help but listen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is find out what everyone else cares about and then draw that line. And that's really interesting.
Well, yeah, it's self-fulfilling, right? Maintenance does matter to all of the things that anybody could care about, whether it's profitability or whether it's capacity or whether it's, strategic planning, production planning. Like maintenance impacts all of those things very directly. And it's more about how you tell the story than whether or not it's true, because it's definitely true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like even in these exercises, you can develop a better relationship with everyone, every other department in your organization. You might already have that relationship, but if you don't, or if you want to improve it, it sounds like this exercise of finding, telling your success story tells the success story of your whole company. From one department to another as well. And I think I really wanted to know, maybe Scott, you can speak to this. We've been talking about telling your story internally. So how do you get your successes around the organization? But what if you want to take a step further? What if that's something you're already doing right now internally, but you want to reach out to external, your maintenance network, even news and telling people about your wins. Maybe maintenance is making your company more sustainable. How do you go about doing this, that more external outreach?
There's a lot of really great forums to reach out. There's maintenance organizations that you can get involved with, SMRP, PMMC. There's literally dozens. I think that if you're looking to build a long-term sustainable career as a maintenance leader, it is a great idea to associate with one or more of those organizations. I think there's some really great maintenance podcasts that are out there. I think podcasting is a great forum for sharing best practices, tips, and tricks. I know that there's a lot of great hosts that are looking for a lot of great interview candidates. And then, even working with your vendors, not to get too pushy on Fix, but I know we work with a lot of our customers to host, like whether they're quarterly or monthly customer roundtables, and just get people to the table talking about, best practices, challenges. You can share your successes for sure, but you can also really learn and develop and grow. So just always important to continue to build internal and external networks.
Yeah, and I think you hit on something that I want to talk about as well, and that's that personal element, that personal progress and success, and how to communicate that within your organization and externally as well, so you can grow. And Jason, I think maybe you can talk to this. It's a question about how do you take your professional development, and how do you tell people within your organization how you're growing and what your personal successes are, so that you can grow yourself, not just your team, but yourself.
Yeah, it's about creating that like that succession plan, or that plan, or that vision of what you want in your career. Do you want to be a maintenance manager? Do you want to go into capital engineering? Are you looking to be a plant manager? So what do you want to do next? And can you create a team and a culture and the individuals there to really function without you being present? Or is your quote unquote like replacement there to take the lead once you make that next step? So it's really it's like, when you get the time, it's really just trying to take that step back and figure out what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? What industry do I want to be in? And who on my team can potentially take my spot and continue to lead as I lead, and better, because you just want to continue to build off of that momentum, and kind of going back to like what we were talking about at the beginning, is continue to win as maintenance, because you do touch so many things. Like, one thing a lot of at least in my experience, a lot of facilities will celebrate is days without any lost time accidents. So like health and safety, and the whole facility will get sweaters or shirts or reusable water bottles. And that's something that maintenance does have an impact on. They're not the ones using the equipment on a day-to-day basis. That's operations and that's production, but they're the ones who are ensuring that your safety sensors are working, that that the equipment is safe to use, that things are secure and physically like in place.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from that is, personal success is team success, and vice versa, right? It's not just about me and what I've done. It's when my team, saves a day of accidents, or when my team helps identify failure, it's a personal success as well. So that's a really cool way of looking at things.
It's also the bit like, it also allows you to tell your story as that leader. So as a leader, I was able to reduce, as an example, downtime by X percent, or I was able to increase capacity in one facility by this percent. So even as your career progresses and you're looking for those new roles and those new opportunities, you're able to tell a story about how you got others involved in order to achieve a specific goal and to achieve a specific outcome in a facility.
Great. And Stuart, I want to circle back to something you said before, and that's celebrate the red. Right. And I had this down on my list because, we've been talking about success stories, but no one, no matter your industry or job, wins all the time. It's not all sunshine. There's thunder showers, right? And you can't just ignore those losses. You can't just talk about your wins and ignore, some of the stuff that didn't go right, because it happens to everyone. I guess my question to you, Stuart, is how should maintenance teams approach those stories? The ones about losses.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point, right? This is manufacturing or whatever industry you're in, there are going to be failures. And I think that's really kind of that next level of maturity of a maintenance team is, going past, fixing and getting back and running to moving into a whole nother level of kind of curiosity and drive around problems and problem solving. There's a lot of different words out there for it and a lot of different methodologies, but what it really comes down to is analyzing your failures. Failure analysis, loss elimination, whatever it is that you want to call it. There's something underlying in there, right? You all know the bearing failed, right? But the bearing failed is not the root cause of your problem, right? And being able to show that your team is taking those steps and being able to present that information that we had this failure because the lube we were using on the quarterly bearing lubrication route was incorrect, right? Go back and figure that out, and then you're presenting a solution, not a problem, right? So that was incorrect. What have you done? Well, we've since moved to a color-coded lubrication system, right? Matched from the bearing to the actual lubrication device so that we're not going to run into these issues in the future, right? Show that kind of value and show that kind of drive to really get it right. And make sure that those don't reoccur, right? That's really what you want to do is systemically drive out that loss, right? Mm-hmm. Take that to root cause, take it all the way, and make sure you fix it so that it doesn't happen again tomorrow.
Right. So it's almost like never let a good failure go to waste, right? Like, something happens, something screwed up, something broke down, whatever, and then it led to this opportunity. That's a really good way of working at. That's how you flip it and reverse it into something.
You either win or you learn, Mark.
That's a good one. I like that.
Exactly.
That's a good one. So before we end the conversation, I want to ask each of you to sort of have one takeaway that people can say, one takeaway that people can get from this video, something that they can take away about telling their success stories in maintenance. Jason, maybe you can start off.
I don't want to steal Scott's you either win or you learn, but I'm going to.
It's all yours, man. Go ahead.
Thanks. I think that would be my one takeaway. It's and this was a challenge that I went through, is it's very easy to take downtime and failures personally, both from a mechanical side and a leadership side. You can take it personally, but and you can get down on yourself, and it's a better use of your energy, and it's a better use to celebrate the wins, and then when those lessons occur, focus on those lessons and try to turn them into wins and try to strategize from there. So downtime isn't a great thing, but you can turn it into something good.
Scott, how about you?
Simple nugget for me is maintenance success is team success. Maintenance teams are always teams. And being humble is really great in a team setting, and it allows them to function really as great teams. But highlight that success, those wins as a team. If you're a maintenance leader and you can push the credit down and show what great work your team is doing, it's going to benefit all of them. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your organization. It's going to benefit your operations. I think when maintenance teams win and highlight those wins, then entire companies stand to benefit. So yeah, maintenance success is team success.
Great. Stuart, round us off here.
I mean, I think I'm on the same train as everybody. It's that culture of success and that culture of winning. And that's not just the maintenance team, right? I think, nobody should ever miss an opportunity to celebrate something good that the team's done. And whether that's, operations, running that perfect shift or hitting that target for daily production, or even, some safety metrics, celebrate those and celebrate the maintenance metrics. Where you want to be is, everybody celebrating everybody's accomplishments, right? You want operations congratulating the maintenance team on a maintenance window well executed. You want your maintenance guys, celebrating with the operations guys that they had a perfect shift. I just kitted parts all shift. It was great. Right? We want to build that kind of culture of celebrating everybody's wins, not just your teams. Look for opportunities outside your team, the groups around you, and celebrate everything, right? Don't miss that opportunity. If you have that strong morale and that strong celebration culture, you're going to get through a lot more, tough days than if you didn't have that culture behind you.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you, Jason, Stuart, Scott. Thanks for sharing your ideas and taking the time to share them with the rest of the Fix community here. I hope everyone out there watching picked up some helpful tips, some inspiration, something to take back to your organizations. As always, thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you want more content like this, you can visit us on our website, fixsoftware.com. You can visit our page on LinkedIn, or just give us a call. We're always happy to talk. And I hope you have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you later.